Welcome back. It's been about almost 2 weeks since the last episode. It's just going to be me for this one. Solo, little game day preview. Last few weeks been a little hectic with finals coming up, ending off the semester, so we've not been very punctual and, needing to or wanting to make an episode here. But I'm gonna get into the quick preview here for the Steelers-Dolphins games. But briefly, I'm going to talk about this Steelers win over the Ravens. Pretty tight, close game. Could kind of see the wheels slowly, coming off there, especially on the defense in the second half with, back-to-back weeks allowing 200 rush yards. And it's a little foreshadowing. Might be a little more difficult again this week. Hopefully someone like Derek Harmon could be back. But yeah, quick notes on the Steeler game. I think the new, bigger veteran presence at receiver was a big help. More of a threat downfield, especially for our guys like DK Metcalf, first play of the game, big 40-yard bomb, 50-yard bomb, something like that. It was a big play. Running game didn't exist. Run defense and rushing offense didn't really exist. I like the corner play. I like seeing Joey Porter Jr. is getting a little bit more of recognition in the media. He's been honestly one of the top 3 corners in the league this year, and he's had less penalties than people like Surtain and Derek Stingley. So hopefully, Porter keeps carrying it on. He hasn't allowed a receiving touchdown yet this season. He's looked like one of the best corners in the league this year. So hope he can keep moving forward with that. That's about all I have for quick notes for the game. Just Rodgers taking command, grinding it out. Offense looked like it had a little bit of extra juice than usual. Just hopefully they can figure that the run game out a little bit better. And that might be not the case this week whenever I get into, some of these injury report stuff. But looking at the AFC North, it's, about what it looked like last week, or after the end of last week. Steelers are still up. Ravens beat the Bengals. They're out of the playoffs. Then we got the Steelers here, 7-6, half-game lead. If they can, continue to stockpile these wins, especially with games they should win, I think they have a pretty good shot of, solidifying this playoff berth, because I don't think there's no way they're going to make it as a wild card. But if they can keep stacking these wins, if they can win Dolphins, Browns, they're going to be in a pretty good spot because the Ravens' schedule is so difficult. Except for the Bengals game, they won 24-0. Looked pretty nice. We'll see what goes on with Joe Burrow's future. But we're looking at this preview, Steelers versus Dolphins. I'm going to start off here with the injury report. This is as of around 2:50 game day. So there's some newer injuries that came out. So we got some guys questionable. Jaylen Warren just came out today with illness. He's questionable to play. Hopefully he does. If he doesn't, I think the run game is going to be a little bit questionable. People are starting to give the nod to Gainwell. I kind of like Warren better still. I just think he has a little bit more pep in his step. I definitely do think Gainwell's a good third down option for sure. Andrews Pete's out with a concussion. James Pierre out with a calf injury. And obviously the big one, TJ Watt out with the punctured lung. If you haven't heard the full story in that already, he was doing some acupuncture dry therapy. Got poked with one of the dry needles, poked his lung. He had a collapsed lung. He got that repaired. Hopefully he'll be back for the next week. And then we have Derek Harmon. He is questionable. He was limited on Saturday. Hopefully he can get there and get back in, because without Derek Harmon, the run game's been a little lackluster. And then versus whenever we have him in the run game, they've actually allowed less on the ground. I believe it's like a 30 to 40-yard margin with and without him playing. So definitely want to get him back in there for sure. And there's not really any notable Dolphins players out besides, obviously, the people they have on IR from earlier in the season. So it's going to be pretty interesting with this, looking at some of these game day trends. Like I said, with looking at the Ravens game briefly, that Steelers pass game opened up. They had about, 284 passing yards. Something quite interesting, 34 rushing yards compared to the Ravens, 217. That's almost what about lost them the game. And obviously getting out-snapped. This defense playing 77 snaps versus our offense playing 51. not a big fan. It's obviously it shows later on in the game whenever this defense is getting run all over. And I think that might be an interesting case here with the Dolphins here, as they've been probably one of the best rushing teams in the league for their 4-game win streak here. They outrushed the the Bills. That's how they won that. And then after that, beat the Commanders 16-13, Saints 21-17, Jets 34-10. That's Tua's first win in the cold. Hopefully he's going to stop that cold winning streak here tonight. But the Dolphins, the only thing I think they're scary with is the run game. I don't think Tua's any good. He hasn't put up any remarkable plays or stats in this 4-game win streak. And obviously the win over the Bills is pretty big, but they beat the Commanders. They're going to have a top 5, top 10 pick. Same with the Saints. Same probably with the Jets. We'll see. They're coming up here in Pittsburgh. We got like 5 to 6 inches of snow on average. Let's see if they can handle the temp. I think tonight is probably going to be, around game time, it's going to be 15 degrees. And in Acrisure, it's going to feel like probably 5 degrees with that wind. So I'm curious how that's going to shape out to be. I definitely do think the Steelers have an edge just based off temperature. Although I saw this video, Dolphins were practicing at RMU on Saturday. The campus, the stomping grounds, right after they got off the plane. I'm assuming at the Pittsburgh International Airport. So they're getting acclimated with the weather. I'm curious if it'll work. I doubt. New York was probably cold, but I doubt it had as much snow. Granted, I'm assuming the field's going to be clear, but obviously, the Dolphins, they're used to playing that nice weather. And let's just hope the Steelers can, open it up, maybe get some run game flowing here. And, the main key to the game that I see is mostly just the run game, especially Steelers defense versus Dolphins rushing offense. If Derek Harmon comes back, I'm going to feel a little bit better. T.J. Watt being out, it's not the best. He hasn't been the pass rush, MVP he's been for the past couple seasons, but he's been probably one of our most solid run defenders that we've had this season. So I'm not too excited with him being out, especially with how much of a non-factor, in my opinion, the Dolphins' defense is. And I'm thinking that, if Rodgers can just, muscle it out, I think he's obviously equipped to manage a game for sure, but we're getting to the point of the season where we need him to come out and win these games. And I'm curious if, MVS is going to take another helmet over Roman Wilson. That's definitely something worth mentioning. Roman Wilson without a helmet. I think it just comes down to him not playing enough football. He sat out his whole rookie year, and then MVS comes in, and obviously he probably knows what to do. He's played with Rodgers for almost his whole career, so I think that just based off of, experience and kind of where the Steelers are at in the season, they can't really have any more mental mistakes. They're pretty much do and die with the Ravens here, neck and neck, fighting for the division. So I think we're going to see more veteran presence here. Hopefully they'll just end up calling MVS up to the old active roster. Obviously, I don't think MVS even had a catch. Nope. But, a guy like Adam Thielen, 1 catch, 4 yards. First game back, but obviously the big guy that game, 7 receptions, 148 yards, DK Metcalf. He's looking nice. Yeah, leading rusher for the Steelers last game. Gainwell, 4 carries, 15 yards. So we'll see what that entails tonight. But yeah, just main key to the game, stop the rush offense of the Dolphins, and continue to open up that pass game. Once that pass game opens up, you can start running the ball. Maybe if Warren's out, you'll see some more Caleb Johnson. I've been kind of looking at him all year. People have been a little down on him from that kick return, but that's weeks away, so I think people have kind of forgotten. I'd like to see him. I feel like this is a kind of game for Caleb Johnson, one of those a bigger, thicker running back. Maybe he can be on that, wear him down as the game goes on and run all over them, hopefully. But I'm going to get into my prediction here. I'm thinking it's going to be close probably for the first half. I think this is going to be one of the first times in the second half the Steelers have actually pulled away. I don't think they're going to be down in the first half. I think it's going to be like a 13-7 type of deal in the first half of the game. And then I think it's going to finish off with like a 31-13. I think the Steelers are just going to outlast this Dolphins team, especially in the cold. You know, they're not really used to that, like I've talked about a couple times. But yeah, I just think that's just what it is. I think it's going to be, they're going to be able to walk off with this. You know, hopefully this Steelers team continue to, continue their hot streak, even though they're on a one-game win streak. But if they can finish the season a little warm, you know, you could see this team potentially being a favorite to actually win a playoff game for the first time in almost about 9 or 10 seasons. So, yeah, and then my hot take, I don't know if anyone else saw, but Darnell Washington got cleared from concussion protocol. I think this is the kind of player that is one of the most impact players of the game, one of those big physical guys. You get Darnell Washington in the cold with some run after catch possibilities, some yak, some rack, and he's going to be breaking tackles in the secondary here. And also, a quick note before I end the episode, Minka's coming back to town. I'd be curious to see how that looks. I haven't heard much of him down in Miami just because they start off the season so slow, but I haven't heard really anything about Minka here. And looking at the spreads, it looks like the Steelers, obviously, as I expected, the Steelers are the favorites. The over-unders, 42.5. I'm going to take the over on that, and the spread is 3. I think the Steelers can cover that. I think they're going to win by at least 6 or 7 points here. Yeah, that's all I thought I have. Hot take, I think Washington's going to be our key to success here on the offense. Hopefully this team can force the Dolphins to pass. I don't think they're ready to pass here in the cold weather, and potentially maybe if it snows tonight, the snow. But that's going to be it for this episode. A little bit of a quick one. It's just me, so I don't have two opinions to table tennis back off of each other to talk about this game. But that's going to be it. Hopefully the Steelers can continue to stack up these dubs. 8-6 is going to look a lot prettier than 7-7. That's for sure. That's going to be it. We will see you next time.